Hello and welcome back to Habits of Influence podcast. It's awesome to have you back here where me, Magdalena, Hanah, and my co-host
Ian Manheimer.
discuss all things life and business, and especially being an entrepreneur, not going crazy with your everyday tasks. So we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of being a business owner and how not to lose your head, how to remain sane in all of this, and how to become a person others wish to follow. And as usual, we like to discuss topics that might be controversial. We have spiced it up recently, so if you are with us for quite some time, hello back. It's awesome to see you here. If you're new, you can expect the unexpected. We hope that you like our podcast, that you're going to be with us. If you have any interesting topics that you would like to share with us, please drop them to our email, habitsofinfluence@gmail.com. It's on the screen now. That's habitsofinfluence@gmail.com. Or drop them in the comment section of our YouTube channel. It's always great to hear your opinions. Me and Ian, we can't wait to find out what you think about the podcast and get to use some of your amazing topics. We're really, really grateful to everybody that have been sharing, commenting, that have been dropping their topics with us. We love it. We read every single one of them, and we're really, really appreciative. So keep on sharing, keep on loving, and we promise to give you all of ourselves in this journey so that you don't feel as alone. And today I wanted to specifically discuss influence on the youngest generation of entrepreneurs. We're getting very, very young people now as entrepreneurs, but the influences that are being shown online are in majority, that's again speculation warning, again, in my opinion, majority of those influences are not necessarily very positive, and we need to be very mindful of what our kids and young people watch. And I mean kids and young people, because yes, they get as young as 9, 10, or 12, 13. We have such young
Even younger.
entrepreneurs. Did you think that this is going to come to, this situation that we're going to have kids starting their own businesses?
Are you asking me about that?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, not that I was starting a business, but I mean, I remember being, I don't know, fifth, sixth grade, going out and washing cars and mowing lawns to try to make money. I mean, and I think in today's world, everything is so digital. There's so much opportunity out there, and I've heard of so many different youngsters that are just creative and intuitive, and they have these great ideas and great thoughts and great processes, and I think it's wonderful. I wish more people would do it.
I think it's true. I think it teaches our young generation very, very important things. Respect for hard work, respect for money, but also being consistent, showing up, being responsible in when you are starting your own business. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. Although, as everything, it does have its bad sides, and access to the internet, the whole world, access to you as a person when you start up a personal brand or show up online, can be also very dangerous for those kids. And what they get exposed to can also be very dangerous for them. But I want to put all of this aside. What I wanted to talk about specifically is when young people start out, let's say their YouTube channels or TikTok channels or whatever other avenue through which they want to show themselves as a personal brand, they go through all sorts of stages like we all do, right? When we're all growing up. And what I'm worried about and what I wanted to discuss today is what impact and influence their changes and their turmoils in their life may have on the audience, on the viewers, which is majority, young people as well. What kind of impact is it going to have on their audience? And also, this is going to be on a specific example of one very well-known influencer. Is the redemption of those people after they do make massive mistakes, is it something that should be granted, or should we generally leave, the public appearances? We just established having a business is great, but should we leave the public appearances up until you're grown up enough to understand how serious this is and how responsible you need to be in whatever you say or do.
That's a tough one because if I was judged on myself as a kid, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today. There's no way. The running joke when I was in middle school is most likely to be dead by 20. I was sentenced to be a failure my whole life. And I made really bad decisions, did a lot of stupid things that were dangerous, things that were stupid, things that were offensive. I was a jerk of a kid at points. So I don't think that people's
I think we all were. So sorry to interrupt you here, but I don't think that you're special in any way in that. We all have our stage of being typical assholes, and that's exactly my point. Let's not kid ourselves, being a young person, teenager, is rough and it's tough, and it entails a lot of changes in the way that you think, in the way that you behave, and that's exactly my point. Should that be exposed to the public? Should that be an entertainment for other young people, as as a guideline of how you should behave? Because those young influencers, they have massive, massive platforms, and specifically the one I'm going to talk about today. If we count in numbers across all of the platforms, it's over 20 million people. So we're not talking about micro, little, tiny influencers. We're talking about massive audiences that actually listen to those young people with all of their assholeness and all of their mistakes and all of the bumps in the road.
and it's we live in a society now where everything is different. Everybody has cell phones. Everyone's recording everything they see. People are posting asinine stuff online, and it is get. I mean, I remember years ago when Jackass came out. I don't know if I remember Jackass,
Remember?
like with Steve-O and them. They would come out and they do literally stupid things, like they hurt themselves or other people, and people enjoyed watching that.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is funny. Oh, I love watching a guy bend over in front of a bull and get a bullhorn up his butt. It's like, really, come on. It's like, but we've just, as a society, we've shifted that anybody can post anything and do anything. And it is getting followers. It is getting people to watch and subscribe and whatever it is to whatever you want. And I don't know if there's a right or wrong. I think what we need to focus on more is really actually educating our youth into what is good for them. Is this helpful to you? Is it hurting other people? Is it, it's like, how do we educate our youth to be influenced by things that are going to help them as opposed to hurt them?
Mm. And I think, generally having those conversations with our children of what they believe is and isn't true. And I'm going to say it in the example of my own son. He loves YouTube. He absolutely wants to be a YouTuber. And I have a rule that up until he's a certain age, he's not allowed to show his face. If he would to start his channel, he's not allowed to show his face because I'm particular when it comes to internet safety. I don't want people to see him, and I don't want him to get in trouble. There's also another rule that he cannot respond to potential comments that they would be filtered through me as an adult who knows that there are trolls, there are horrible people, there are just as much as there are wonderful people, and internet just exposes you to all of that. But regardless, I got off topic. A lot of times my son comes to me watching those YouTubers and says, "Mommy, did you know that da da da?" And there comes some sort of information that he has learned from a YouTube channel. Half of the time it's fine, it's true, it's not harmful in any way. Sometimes it's just piece of BS, a complete untruth, something that does not exist or something that somebody made up, and it is presented as a fact. And here is where I mind that, because I have to have a full-blown conversation with my son and explain to him, like, listen, darling, this is not exactly as it is. This is just for entertainment purposes. You should not believe everything that you hear online. But that's the problem, and this is something that we will speak in some of the episodes soon. There's a whole wave of pseudo experts, people that don't really know much about the topic, but that they present the topic as expertise, valuable expertise. Back in the day, you had to have, titles backing up, certain university titles that were backing up, your name, to what you were trying to present. You had to actually reach out to noble magazines or TV shows and stuff like that. Access to that is basically open to anybody now. So you can actually state anything as a fact, anything as a piece of expertise, and there is no way to kind of flag something that is incorrect with something that is of actual truth and value.
I mean, there's always research you could do, but
I don't
it
think that
is
any child would, though.
no,
We
no,
are consuming very quick. We are consuming from videos, and if that's a unexperienced little mind, they are not
yeah.
necessarily going to go into thesaurus or Wikipedia, which also can be now edited, and just find out more. So
Yeah, and we live in a world where everything is instant, everything is digital, everything, anybody can be anybody.
yeah.
I can tell you I grew wings last night, I can fly, and I'll have a million people believe me.
You see, this is funny because my child has recently said he's convinced that he can fly. I said, like, yes, darling, but not in the way that you're not in the sense that you're speaking of. Yes, you can fly, mentally, like you're elated because you're so good at something or so happy in your life, but not like physically. Obviously, you're not gonna grow wings. I hope you understand that. Sometimes I'm not sure he does understand that, but he's 7.5, so I'm kind of lenient about it still, as long as he doesn't tell me, mommy, I can fly standing at the top of a really high-rise building, that doesn't make me concerned, unless that happens. But you know there is this influencer that I've mentioned, and she's got like a massive, massive following, and there's been nothing. She's just one of the examples of many, many YouTubers, TikTokers, or whatnot, that have got themselves into massive, massive trouble spreading misinformation. And the one specifically that I wanted to talk about speaks of matters of the mind, psychology tips and tricks, like very short little video snippets. And you know what? I watched some of them myself, and I'm into, I teach people mindset matters. I've been into self development, self growth for over 18 years. I would say, I would risk saying that I do know a little bit, about that topic because I've been reading about it. I've been getting myself informed. It was part of my university studies. I do know a little bit. And I got caught up in thinking, that's interesting. I've never heard that. In her videos, I found them exceptionally entertaining, exceptionally well presented, and believable. But then, when all the heat started coming around that girl online, experts started coming out with their own opinions, actual psychologists, people who spend years and years training what they do, debunking what she's saying as complete BS and untruth. And this is just part of the equation that I wanted to touch upon right now. Where is, how are we able to distinguish, first of all, what is true and not true online? And especially, how can we explain it to our kids? Because what I think the schools give is like basic internet safety, like don't talk to strangers, right? Or, when you're playing games, or, but it doesn't really give information of how to distinguish what is true and what is not. I think that it's a very important topic that we need to undertake.
And it's a very difficult topic too. And I have like such weird opinions on, because yeah, I'm all for factual information and making sure that things check out and all that, but at the same time, there's also the devil's advocate part of that, which I'm totally, it may be totally off topic, and you can tell me to shift it. But like, I think about religion, and like one religion might say this is the way it is, another might say no, it's this way, and which one's right? So like when you're talking about listening to their videos and like something made sense and it was entertaining, it like, oh, maybe it does align with us differently, even if it's not factual information. Maybe it does resonate though, and maybe it makes sense and says, I could see how that would work, or I could see this making sense.
Hmm.
So just because it's
I
not
know, I know
textbook,
what you mean, but let's just be honest, spiritual matters or religious matters, they fluctuate because, like you said, there's different approaches to the same topic, and there is no, set in stone way of how you should perceive religion. It's very individual. Whereas when it comes to science and a fact, you can't ban facts, because if we come to the point of actually saying, okay, that might resonate, it might suit me, then we're kind of throwing away thousands of years of growth and expertise of actual scientists, of, you know, people that have actually proven certain matters, certain things, that they work in such and such a way. So if we are bending reality, if we are bending something that is a fact into, okay, from now on 2 + 2 is not 4, it's whatever I feel that is aligned with me, something is off, don't you think?
well, there's a difference between like science, like you said, and then psychology. Is
Well, psychology
psychology,
is a science that has been studies, made by multiple people, and
but is it
certain
cut and
things
dry?
has been stated as a fact.
But is it cut and dry?
No, it's
Because like what?
not. But no,
Because
it's
what
not.
one
But
tech, and again, I'm not familiar with the person you're talking about, so I have no frame of reference on this. I'm just thinking outside, like like such a touchy subject because there's no right way. There's no wrong way. I mean, there obviously is wrong way, but there's no cookie cutter method that works for everybody. Nothing works for everybody.
let me ask you a question. If you had a problem with your leg and you needed a surgery, would you go to a baker to fix your leg?
Depends if I'm the gingerbread man or not. If I was a
Well,
gingerbread man, no, no,
let's say,
I know what you're saying. No,
or even better,
no.
okay, a seamstress. She knows how to sew people. You will have to have stitches. So, some knowledge. Would you?
I think it's all relative. It all depends on the situation.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. You wouldn't, because that person does not have expertise with human flesh. My best friend, she's doing studies on this, like super new age kind of machinery, like the with the micro tools and all of that, where a surgeon sits in like this little capsule, and the thing that operates the person is like a little machine, but you still need that surgeon in that machine, looking at the camera to perform the operation. It's just that it's more precise because the tools are smaller, and you've got like 6 arms or something, instead of just two hands, and it just twists and turns in different directions, but it still requires the expertise of a person that runs it. So that's the point I'm trying to get to, is yes, there are alternative methods. Yes, there probably will be methods that will help other people. Yes, traditional medicine, psychology, and all other traditional expertise is sometimes flawed and it's faulty, and sometimes it may not work out the way that we want it. But there is a reason why people spend years and years in medicine, years and years in psychology, years and years in whatever expertise that requires specific type of knowledge.
And I would agree with you. And real quickly, because I think we're kind of like spinning off from the original topic of what we started with. We're
No,
talking about
we're still talking about, the truth, and kind of trying to establish, can we have fluids, energy? Can we have BS served for our young people and pollute their minds? And then we as parents, we have to kind of, you know, explain to them that that's not the way it is. What if they're at the age of saying, no, I believe that YouTuber instead of you, because you know nothing, because all children have this sort of stage like, no, you know nothing,
and
mom,
that's
dad.
happening. That's already happening. Well, I guess where I was going at was, we started the conversation talking about a YouTube influencer who was a young girl who was getting repercussions for behavior, right?
Yeah, because first of all, the first repercussion started with the fact that somebody called her out on saying things that are untrue. The next things, and that's what we were discussing here, the next things were connected with her, let's say that's how she explained it growing up. Like, so she was very, very young. She started being very rude, very obnoxious, racist, derogatory, very, very, very hurtful towards a lot of people, and I mean whole groups of people, representatives of whole groups of people, like in the terms of racism or the LGBTQ community. And she's received a lot of backlash, but then she came back and and this kind of leads me to another part of our topic, the redemption part, where she just explained, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I was very young, I didn't know what I was saying. Now I have changed and grown. You know, I understand the whole journey. She's been a public figure throughout her teenage years up until adulthood, early adulthood, adolescence. Um, what I'm trying to figure out in this chat is, should we allow as a society, should there be any barriers that prevent young people of showing those bad influences? Because obviously, throughout, she might be changed now, but there's a lot of people that she has impacted and influenced in a way to be racist, to be derogatory, to be hurtful. Do you understand?
Yeah, that makes a little more sense because again, I don't know who you're. I have no frame of reference of who you're talking to or what.
I'm,
Or
I'm trying I'm
so
trying to not to name names, but it's a
yeah,
influencer called Only Jayus.
yeah.
She's like, she does those short videos on TikTok and YouTube, psychological videos, tips and tricks for how to
So
manipulate someone, how to, I don't know, make someone smile at you, make someone like you less, more, whatever, that sort of stuff.
so is the topic more of should things be filtered and before it gets put out in public, or is it more of the redemption piece of here she was as a kid doing this, now she's saying she's changed who she is, or should we forgive her? What exactly is the topic? I guess
I
I'm
think
confused now.
I think I have a problem with both, because obviously, like I said, she's going to have influence as a kid, when she's got her troubled years, when she's doing her mistakes, and she's impacting young people's minds. Because obviously, this is not going to be like, old bulls like me, me or you, who's going to be watching her. It's going to be majorly, young audience.
Well, that would be my question: is what do we have stats on the audience? Like what is the average range of her? You know,
Yeah,
who is
there
her?
had been stats made, and majority of her audience, well, right now it's young people, and young people, I mean, like, young adolescents, like 15, 21, that sort of audience.
Okay. I'm listening. Keep going.
And the second part is the redemption. So after you F up doing this online as a child, should you have any repercussions, or should this be just like, brushed under the carpet, and or you're saying, okay, you've had a time of growth or whatever, now you've grown up, you're an adult now, and we forgive everything that you said. And I mean, like, in the case of this girl, it was like some twisted shit, some really hurtful stuff that she's done and said, and till this time, there was so subby apologies, but nothing came after that. She's made promises of how she's going to make it up to all of those communities that she's offended, and she hasn't up until now. um, as much as I would love to, give everybody a chance, especially young people who are changing, because, like I said in the very beginning, this is a very difficult time in your life, and you will surely change. Is it a good idea to just let it go, and just let the people just carry on and be influential, or should there be any repercussions?
It's a tough one. I don't know what the right answer is. I really have no clue. It's I always think there's natural consequences for our actions, no matter where we're at. I mean, and we can go back to the issue we talked about a while back about the whole Will Smith thing. He's got major consequences for one action
Yeah, because
over
see, we as adults, we do get those consequences. That's why
right.
I took this example specifically, because this is just one of the
Yeah.
situations where young people don't get any consequence, and they just can say and do anything online. Again, watched by other young people who think this is normal and this is fun and this is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's I would be a hypocrite to say that we shouldn't forgive somebody for making mistakes. I've made plenty on my own. I also think there should be consequences for actions, because without consequence, often there's no lesson. The consequences teach us, you know, the stove is hot, you touch the stove, you get burnt, you learn not to touch a stove. It's, this is a different topic because there's not immediate consequences. However, you're in a public's eye and you do something that can be perceived as offensive or hurtful, there can be other repercussions that come your way that the public may not see. You may piss the wrong person off and they may come after you. You never know what the actual consequences are. And I don't know, as a society, do you consequence somebody? As whose responsibility is it to provide those consequences?
And I'm also mindful, about the person themselves, because obviously, if they do get, and she did get a lot of backlash, and she's still very young as well. Her response to it was attack, obviously, because she's not at the stage of dealing with it as an adult would, even though physically now she is an adult after all those years. She did get the consequence, but she did not understand what has happened. So from one side, I don't think that we should not give a chance to a person, but I think that platforms should regulate young creators a little bit, even though we're coming back to the very beginning. This is great that they're attempting, their shot at business, learning responsibility and all of that. But by becoming public figures, there should be the same rules, put on young people as there are on us adults that come out as public figures. So being mindful of what you say, of your conduct, of your behavior, and the consequence that may occur if you do something.
I would fully agree with that. And I guess my question is she trying to be a business and an entrepreneur, or is she just trying to be an influencer and get her opinion and thoughts out there?
Influencing is a business. Influencing is treated as a business. And this type of influencing, that's massive. It's massive, and I can see with her and many other young people, because I've been actually preparing to this video. I've been looking at paths of many like YouTube stars who started like as very, very young people, and they've had similar situations. Like they kind of, showed up. They've made certain mistakes. Some of them owned up to them and really apologized and really brushed up their game, realizing. I even saw interviews with people, with some YouTubers, just saying, "We are really sorry. We know that our audience is predominantly young, very young, and very impressionable." And they moved on. But there are also people like Only JS, who does not take into consideration that she's done something wrong, that she's hurt somebody, that she should generally change something. Like I said, aside of a sobby apology, which that nothing came after that, it was just for the public. There is no recognition, there is no repercussion, and there's still this young, impressionable audience that is watching her and probably taking whatever she says as a fact.
Yeah. It's a valid point. It's a very valid point.
So yeah, like I said, my son wants to be a YouTuber. My rules are my rules, and they are there for a reason. But also, it's up to perhaps us as parents, entrepreneurs, because it's usually kids of entrepreneurs, or kids that had something, watched somebody in their family, or had some sort of been influenced by somebody close to the child to want to go into business in the first place. Your first role model's job to keep that child safe, informed, and teach them that every single action has a consequence, not just a reaction.
Yeah. And I think, like, for me, if I was to focus on what I would want out of this topic, is to really think about what you're allowing to influence you, if you have kids, what they're being cognizant of, what they're watching and paying attention to. And like you said, asking those questions of, is this fact, is this opinion, actually learning to think for yourselves. Because that's, I think, something that's gotten lost with a lot of our youngsters, is they're not thinking. They're just, everything's on the internet is real, and it's not. So I think that's a big one, is like really teaching those youngsters, do your fact checks, figure out what's real and what's not, and don't just listen to everything you see or hear because it's on the online. And then, you know, just being cognizant again of what we align with.
See? So that's a full circle. You ended up with what I started with. What do we believe is true and what they believe is true. And I believe that everything comes down to that belief and that knowledge. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Not every video needs to have a point. It was just me ranting because I'm not the only parent of a young child, of a young mind that wishes to be an entrepreneur. And I'm sure a lot of our audience have children, they're entrepreneurs themselves, have children that have been influenced and wanting to do things like, with access to the internet. Probably most of them will want to be influencers, personal brands, people that expose themselves to not only dangers from the side of the audience, but also dangers from the side of themselves, not being able to handle certain situations. Did I confuse you now?
No, I don't think I have anything else to contribute.
All right. As usual, guys, I know that this topic has been all over the place, but I am, sometimes I'm just wondering if we are not having enough of those conversations where we just bounce ideas and we don't really come to conclusions. I think sometimes those are the most valuable conversations that we can have because it causes us to think about the topic and come to our own thoughts and our own conclusions in the end. And that being said, I'm giving the floor to you guys. What do you think influences our children right now? That all the things that we've been talking about from the point of view as a viewer, as an audience, your child being an audience, and your child perhaps wanting to do business and starting out a personal brand. Do you think those are important topics to discuss? And what should we pay attention to when our children start to do anything online or watch anything online? I would be really, really curious to hear your thoughts. I'm sure Ian as well, even though he just looks like he doesn't want to talk with me anymore about this subject. I know we can go into many avenues, and I know we've gone into many, many, many avenues, but I still believe that this is something that is very prominent right now, that is something that is not undertaken enough. And we, especially as entrepreneurs, should be mindful of that because there's more and more children of ours that will want to do the same. So again, leave your thoughts. If you are watching on YouTube, drop it in the comment section. If you are listening on a podcast, send it to us to habitsofinfluence@gmail.com. And well, that's going to be enough of our rambling for this week. Again, I'm going to remind you that any form of support in the form of sharing, liking, subscribing, loving our podcast and talking about it to other people really, really, really helps. It helps the algorithm. It helps us being more visible and essentially lets us help more entrepreneurs. And soon we are going to be giving out prizes, but we need those numbers a little bit higher so that we know that you guys are watching, you're interested, you're loving this, and we are planning something really, really amazing. So stay with us, be with us, tap that notification bell so you don't miss any episode. We're with you every Wednesday at 12 p.m. EST. And that's gonna be it for me for this week. Thank you so much, Ian, as usual, for being with me, and I'm going to chat with you next week.
Look forward to it.
So am I. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ian. I'll see you again next week.